Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video. If you saw the last video, we got the aluminum 6.2 block completely prepped. We honed the cylinders, got all the bearings removed, got all of the mating surfaces for the head, oil pan, valley cover, everything is good to go. It's wrapped up, it's sitting right over here, waiting to be reassembled. Now before we start installing the crank and bearings and pistons and the whole nine, I want to go through all of the parts that I have here and get them all as clean as we can. Now I have a few different methods for cleaning automotive parts. Some of them are just pretty basic and common. Some of them are things I've come up with by myself over the years that actually work extremely well. I'm going to be showing you guys in this video also that I'm sure you're going to like. It's actually pretty funny and works really good. So what I'm going to use to clean all of the parts is a product called Oil Eater. This isn't sponsored or anything, but my brother put me onto this stuff when I first started assembling the engine, and it is like a hot tank in a can. This stuff is incredible, melts away old oil, tarnish, anything that's burnt onto metal or aluminum, and makes them look really good. So we're going to be using that on all of these parts. We're going to be scrubbing them, we're going to be letting some things soak, and something I came up with myself like I was just talking about is a homemade sonic cleaner. So we're going to go ahead and use that for some of the smaller parts. Let's go ahead, dive right into it. I'll show you how I make this sonic cleaner and how well it works. Now what you're going to need to make this sonic cleaner is some kind of can or a tote or Tupperware. I've used a lot of different stuff. You don't want to do anything too big. I'm going to be using this paint can. You need some kind of solution. Like I was saying, we're going to be using this Oil Eater here, which is phenomenal stuff. And the cherry on top is a palm sander. This is what creates the vibration and makes that sonic cleaning effect and vibrates the parts really well to get them super clean. Now obviously once you put your solution and everything in here, it's not as easy as just setting this on top and turning it on. It's gonna fall, it's gonna spill, this is gonna go all over the place. So you need to secure the palm sander to the can. Also at the same time, once you secure the palm sander to whatever you're using, like I said, Tupperware, paint can, whatever, I found this to be a good size, you then need to have this hanging in the air so it's free floating, so all the vibrations go into your can and not transferred into a table or the floor or anything else. So yes, it is a little ghetto. Once you see how I secure it all, I use a couple straps and it looks really bad, but I'm telling you, this works fantastic. This actually works better than any sonic cleaner that I have ever used, and just wait till you see the end result. It is really good. All right, so the way we're gonna do this, I normally don't like to dilute the Oil Eater, but I only have a gallon here. I'm really trying to stretch it out for all the parts of the engine. I get some really hot water, dump that in there, pretty much like a 1-to-1 mix of water and Oil Eater. Again, if you can just use this concentrate, that is preferred. Now before we go ahead and start getting all of our parts cleaned, I want to take some things apart. I've already ran some test cycles, not with the Oil Eater, just kind of by hand scrubbing these. I got one set of the rockers all cleaned up off camera. I'm going to go ahead and break these rockers down. We are going to be doing a trunnion upgrade, so I'm going to take these nasty, crusty rockers that we have. We're going to take the needle bearings out of them so they are bare shells like these ones. We'll get these thrown into the sonic cleaner I'm telling you about, and we'll get these all cleaned off. Now breaking these down is extremely simple. You have one side of the rocker that has these flat ears and another side that does not. You'll find ways of doing this all over the internet. What I'm using is a 13/16 socket and a 9/16 socket. You'll just place the bigger socket over the end that has these flat ears, use the other smaller socket, and you'll just press them out, and we'll repeat this for all the rockers on this head. And do your best not to drop them because the needles will go all over the floor. And then we'll take our rockers that we stripped down earlier, throw all of them in, as well as the nasty hardware. Now this Oil Eater alone will clean these up completely, but using the sonic cleaner is just incredible and takes all the hassle out of it. All right, now like I said, this is a little ghetto, but it works great, so bear with me here. We just want to strap down our palm sander to the paint can. I like making a little hook here so we have something to grab it by and strap it to the roof or the garage door or whatever you got, just to have this secured in the air. And that's it, we got it floating. Now once we turn on the palm sander, all of the vibrations, which are really intense, are just gonna sit in here and go to all of our parts. Now, fair warning, this is pretty loud. I'm gonna let it run for maybe 5 or 10 minutes and we'll check the parts and see how they're doing. Oh yeah. So here's how they are looking just after maybe 6 or 7 minutes of being in this sonic cleaner. These things are pristine, literally look brand new. So here is another one of the rockers. Again, not brushed or anything. And it looks incredible. So good. See if we can find some hardware here. Show you guys one of the hardwares also. Same thing, here's a bolt. Looks great. So I want to go ahead and rinse all of these off with water. I don't want the solution just sitting on here. So I'm going to pull all these out and put them in a bucket and we'll get it all rinsed off and cleaned. We're back with some of our leftover solution. I want to take our main caps and let all of these soak. All right guys, so it's been a total of maybe 15 minutes since we started this whole thing. I let the rockers go for maybe 6-7 minutes in the little ultrasonic thing I made. But here's how they look. These are unscrubbed, just in the sonic cleaner and rinsed with some water. And they look brand new. So as you can see, it works extremely well. I'm gonna do this with all the hardware that we have. I'm soaking these main caps right now. I'm gonna pull these out here in a few minutes and you can see all the old oil just falls off. Here is before soaking a main cap, and here's 10 minutes after just hitting it with the hose. All right guys, so we got the rockers clean, a lot of the hardware, we got the main caps clean. The last thing that we need to do are all of these pistons. I went ahead and moved the solution into a bigger bucket. I'm probably gonna put some more fluid in there. And I'm just gonna let these guys soak for probably 30 minutes, maybe an hour, and just hit them with the hose and we'll see how they turn out. But before I go ahead and do that, I need to remove all of the piston rings. So let's get all those removed and we'll get them soaking. All right guys, again, the same thing here. I just sprayed this down, let it sit for about 15 minutes, and this thing looks practically brand new. All right, so I've been letting this one sit for maybe 30 minutes now. These pistons have a lot of carbon buildup on them. I just kind of want to show you guys how this is looking. It's realistically maybe been 35 minutes. I mean, it is just eating this stuff away. In the grooves all look clean. There's a tiny bit on there I could brush off if I wanted. But it's just incredible. All that deep brown that was burnt in there, gone. I'm probably gonna let that sit for a few more minutes and hit it with the hose. So I told you all about the crank that came with the engine. The very front journal was just completely toast. I got this new one from my buddy Joey for completely free. It's exactly what we need, and it's really nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit it with the oil eater, spray the whole thing down a few times over the next hour or so. We'll spray it off and see how it looks. All right, so we got the crank all done. I hit this one with the scrubber because it had a lot of oil built up and burnt on there, and it turned out pretty good. I mean, it's not perfect, there's some on here, but this thing, for what it was, looks fantastic. Like I was saying, the old crank that I have, the journal on it, the front journal on it was completely toast. This one's all nice and smooth. I am gonna polish all of the journals. I'll show you guys here soon how I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I am soaking the third piston now. This is probably gonna be like an all-day process to soak all 8 of these pistons, but they are turning out so good without doing anything to them. I mean, I am hitting the top of it with a white roll-off disc because it's not getting all of it, but as far as the sides and inside, it looks fantastic. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up doing these pistons. The mains are done, the rockers are all done. The only thing left I have to do is, like I said, polish the journals on this crank, and I am gonna do the heads also. I'm probably gonna take the heads into a machine shop just to get them decked, so I might just have him hot tank them while I'm there, but I'm gonna sit on that for a minute. I'll decide what I wanna do. I'm spraying all of these when I'm done with WD-40 just so they don't rust as they're sitting here in my garage. All right, so the main caps are all back into the block. I cut open the wrap to throw them in and then just re-saran wrapped it. It probably isn't even necessary that I'm saran wrapping all these parts. After putting all the time and effort into them, the last thing I want is for any humidity to hit these. I'm covering everything in WD-40 right before I wrap it just so it can just hang out and just soak in that WD-40. Because here in Florida, it is very humid. I mean, even with WD-40, stuff will start to rust within a couple weeks. I've been talking to a lot of my LS buddies who have built these motors insides and out much more than I ever have. And something I keep getting mixed information about is whether or not I should balance this crank. Now I know everyone that's watching this right now is like, yeah, of course, why not just get the crank balanced and polished and the whole nine? A, it's hard to find anyone who can do it in a decent time frame, especially where I'm at. And B, if it's not totally necessary, it's money that I don't have to spend. And I think that's really just specific if you go with like a 5.3 or a 6.0 crank and you put it in a 6.2 or you mix match any of them. They are all the same part number. I believe some of them are drilled a little bit differently and balanced a little bit differently. So what I'm gonna do just to make sure that this is the exact same crank and weight as the one that came in this motor is I'm gonna unwrap that crank and I'm gonna put it side by side with the one I pulled out of this engine, and I wanna really examine all the weights and make sure that everything on the crank is drilled to the same depth and the same size, and make sure that they are in fact the exact same crank, because if it's not, then I will have to get it balanced. So let me just put the two cranks side by side here and make sure they are in fact identical. Here is the crank that I pulled out of the 6.2. And here's the one I've already taken the time to use half a thing of saran wrap on. So here's the two cranks. Here is the new one that I got, and here's the old one. Both are from a 6.2. I just want to verify they are in fact exactly the same. all of these weights here that are on the crank, in some spots, I can show you here, you'll see these big holes. They are drilled to take weight out. Now, starting on this very front one, you see we have this good bit drilled out here, and even a couple little dimples, and all of these little dimples matter. They're all drilled to have this crank perfectly balanced with the rotating assembly that it came with. These both have the drill in the face and two little divots, as well as another small hole and a huge hole here that I can almost go a knuckle deep on. Okay, same thing, a little one and another one that I can go just about the same depth with my finger. So that is awesome. Both of these, same thing, nice and smooth. These two here, nice and smooth. So it actually looks like it's just the end weights that should have any marks on them. And now that I look, it's actually pretty much the same exact marks as the front. So if I look at this here, drilled, two dimples, just like the front. And same thing as the front, a half one here and another bigger one. I can almost get a knuckle in. And it's exactly the same. Fantastic. So from what I can tell, these two are exactly the same cranks. Love that. All right, so now that we know for sure this crank is good, I don't need to balance it. I probably should have checked all that before I took all that time cleaning it, but it really wasn't too bad. So now that I have it out, I don't want to wrap this back up and then unwrap it again. So we're gonna polish all of the journals on here. I'm sure you guys have seen online the homemade ways to do this. This crank's already in really good shape, so I don't need to do much. But what we're gonna do is use some 1500 grit, some WD-40, and some shoestring. And let me show you how we're gonna go ahead and get all of these polished. So we wanna get this 1500 grit that we got, and we wanna cut strips that are the same width of all of these journals. We will soak the journal in WD and the strip. We want to go ahead and just wrap it around the journal. And take the shoelace. And you want to try and disperse this as much as you can around the surface of the crank. So I'm going to start on the left side here. I'm trying to do it in a way where the string covers most of the journal so it keeps pressure on everything. Beautiful, that actually turned out really nice. So let's just go ahead and move on to all the rest. All right, now I have all of the surfaces nice and smooth. They still got a thin film of WD-40 on there. So I have some dish soap and water. All right, guys, so we have all of the journals nice and smoothed out. I got them clean with some dish soap and water. So now what we're gonna do is go over each journal with some of this mag polish and a rag, and we're just gonna get it nice and smooth and try to get the shiniest finish that we can. All right, so there is one done. It's not perfect. You can still see a little bit of scoring in here, but it's nothing. I'm not gonna worry too much about that. All right, guys, so we have the crank completely done. It's polished, it's all cleaned, it's greased, and it's wrapped back up. The block is completely done. These are all ready to be assembled, as well as all of the pistons are nice and clean. Right now, I'm just waiting on getting our main bearings, our rod bearings, cam bearings, and our piston ring set so we can get everything installed. That'll be in the next video, but I want to finish this video out with cleaning the head. I said I wasn't going to waste my time cleaning them because I'm going to be taking them to get decked anyways, and the guy will just hot tank them while they're there. But I have a good bit of the oil eater left, and I really want to see how good these are going to turn out. So we're gonna spray these a few times over the next 30 minutes or so, and we'll pressure wash them, and I'll show you how they turn out. And just to give you guys a little bit closer look, these are how the heads look. All right, so the cylinder head's cleaned up pretty good. There's still some gunk built up on the lower side of the heads here where it just kind of angles and sits down. But for just spraying that on there and pressure washing it off, I'd say that is pretty good. The bottom side didn't clean up as nice. It cleaned up pretty good, but I'm gonna be getting both of them decked anyway, so it's not a big deal. All right guys, so now that the heads are clean and everything is done, that's gonna be a wrap for this video. We have everything all nice and clean and ready to be installed and build the bottom end of this engine. The only thing we have left to do is take the heads to the machine shop so he can deck the surfaces, as well as just waiting for parts to come in. We need all of our bearings, the mains, the rods, the cams, piston rings, and all of our hardware, and we can start assembling this engine. So that'll be on the next video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you later.